Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby and I'm bringing you something a little different. This time a review of the lowest tier tank that I've ever done, but boy is it a beauty and that's why this is justified. The Matilda. This is a tier 4 British medium tank. And I have to say that I think this is probably the best tier 4 that there is to just carry for all-round tank. What do you need to know about this tank in a nutshell? It's a very heavily armoured tier 4 tank with a ridiculously punchy gun that is able to penetrate any tank that it can meet frontally. Its side armour is nearly as good as its frontal armour, and its turret is all-round armoured so that not many tanks of its tier can penetrate it easily. This is a strong all-rounder that's really able to carry most games, and it has gun depression to boot. That's why I feel that this review is justified, and if you haven't already, maybe you want to be adding this to your garage as a bit of a pimp tank. So without further ado, let's take a more detailed look at some of the stats. Now this tank has got 370 hit points. It weighs 27 tons, which is quite heavy for such a small tank. And now this is the downside. The downside is that this tank only gets 190 brake horsepower engine, which means that this is very slow to accelerate, very slow. This tank has worse horsepower to ton ratio than a mouse. This tank has got worse horsepower to ton ratio than a TOG. What that means is that it's barely able to get to its top speed, which is a very lowly 24 kilometers an hour. Now this is the main weakness of this tank. If this tank was fast, it would be so overpowered. Its traverse speed is surprisingly good though at 36 degrees a second. So downhill, as an example, you can actually maneuver quite well. But more importantly, the traverse speed allows you to change the angles of your frontal armor, face the enemy quickly and be able to engage them. Now looking at the hull armor, it's 75mm at the front and it's 70 at the sides and 55 at the rear. Now your rear armor is trash, you really don't want to get shot in the back in this tank. However, your side armor is quite heavily spaced. Now the side armor on this tank is just so troll, it really is. I would recommend angling the tank basically at a 45-degree angle or even just slightly more, just so that they can try and hit your track and maybe it will absorb some of the damage as well as the spaced armor on the side of the tank. Now the turret armor is 75mm all round, so it really doesn't matter too much where you get hit. Obviously you want to try and use your mantlet on the tank, but apart from that, really, your turret armor is good enough that you can really troll quite well. Now if you're expecting this tank to get a meaty gun, you're not right, but it's a very high penetrating gun. Look at this quick firing 2-pounder. Its caliber may be small, 40mm, but boy does this pack a punch. 28.5 rounds a minute, with 121 base penetration and 145mm of premium penetration. Its average damage is 55, both with the regular ammo and the premium ammo, and its accuracy is an okay kind of 0.36. That's not a brilliant accuracy, but it's not bad. But it's got fantastic aim time of 1.9 seconds, and that's very useful considering what the rate of fire is of this. Really, 121mm of penetration on a tier 4 tank, that is plenty. There are barely any tier 6 tanks that you will really have that many trouble with, apart from maybe a VK3601, or maybe one of the British tank destroyers such as the 88. But when you're discussing not being able to penetrate certain tanks that are 2 tiers higher than this tank, then you really know that you've got a lot of penetration for your tier. And that really is a wonderful thing for the Matilda. Its DPM might not be incredible, but at least it's going to be able to do the damage, irrelevant of what target it's shooting. Now the tank has a turret traverse of 34, which allows it to aim at its targets quickly, and it's got a fairly good view range of 340 meters. That means I like to combine this tank along with binoculars to maximize the view range so I'm able to spot for my team, along with vents and a standard gun rammer. The aim time on this tank means that in my opinion it's not justified to use a gun lane drive on it. Now there is an opportunity to use a 3-inch howitzer on this tank, but unless you really want to fire some premium rounds when you need to penetrate targets, I wouldn't really recommend it. I think considering the opportunities that you get with the 2-pounder, really that is the main gun for this tank. So without further ado, let's take a look at some gameplay. So here we go, let's take a look at our first Matilda gameplay. I'm playing with Peppy Pepper and Ike. As you can see here, Peppy Pepper's in her T28 and Ike's in a Lee. Peppy was trying to grind through this T28 as quickly as possible. This is a very nice matchup for the Matilda where you see that we're top tier tanks. What that means is it's really time to show off the Matilda armor and to see what we can do. And here we can see that me and Peppy work together. She knows how poor the Matilda's engine power is, so we're working together to be able to get the speed. Now this is a mutual benefit, because she can she can protect her terrible armor in the T-28 by using me as basically a meat shield, and I get a bit of speed out of it as well. So we're pre-aiming in the corner for the Stuart. We put in our first shot, and Peppy Pepper picks up the kill. That was a bit of a tongue twister there. I couldn't quite handle it. Now these are kind of tanks that you need to be very worried about. Hetzers and Electos. Tier 4 tank destroyers are probably some of the only tier 4 tanks that can really brutalize you. And there we could see we were able to penetrate the front of the Hetzer twice, also setting him on fire and confirming the kill. So far so good. We can see that an Electo is trying to loop shots over the wall. He's doing a really good job. And they've also got a Bison on their team. So Ike just went down heroically, fighting off a huge fight on the east. And I unfortunately missed the shot there on the Stuart, and I try and fire a clutch shot in on the second, but that misses as well. Now I'm going after this Electo because I'm thinking, whoa, what's he up to, you know? He's just already picked up 3 kills by looping shots over the wall, and he's on 100% health. It's clear that he's a bit of a stomper. Yeah, he's got 10k games played. He just picked up his 4th kill with the derp. Now it's time. I can give him my side of my spaced armor and it doesn't really matter. We're going to be able to brutalize him. I was willing to take a shot there to punish him. He did nearly 100 damage to the side of my tank. I know the Electo has a derp. I'm not sure if he was firing a premium round. I think he was actually, because I think with the HE rounds they usually do 170. Now here you see I'm engaging a Matilda. I'm able to penetrate his lower plate very easily because he's not angling. Now we see that we're bouncing on him, so we're going to aim at the corner of his tank. His track is absorbing 2 shells, 3 shells. And then so we aim for the side of his armor. We don't want to hit his tracks anymore because it was absorbing the damage. And wow, I'm panicking right now. I'm thinking, whoa, the enemies are going to cap. The enemies are going to cap. We've got to get back to base. Let's do it. So I'm not stopping at this B1. I know it's going to be very hard to penetrate the front of his armor for my friends. And so I want to flank him right now. Get him to turn around, or at least turn his turret so my friends can take him out. And Peppy Pepper picks up the kill with her 76mm gun that is on the T-28. So this game is looking really close at the moment. We're behind 2 tanks now. And you can see I'm firing at this Matilda. I don't want to get shot too much. I'm warning Peppy to try and get close in on the wall, because we don't really want to engage him at this kind of range where we can't use our skill to snipe his weak points. So we're advancing. Hopefully we can get onto this corner, but we need to progress to the base. As you can see, I last spotted 3 enemies really close to the base. Now there are 2 capping. I decided it's man mode. Let's do it. I tell Peppy to get behind me and use me as a meat shield. And as you can see there, we have to hit his lower plate and not his mid plate. So Peppy's using me as a meat shield. And we're able to take out the Matilda effectively. We change the Stuart, and then we see an Su-76, sorry, that we take out. Oh, unfortunately we missed the Stuart. And again, oh, the shells are going wide of where we want them to, and that time we hit the pillar, and oh no, Peppy cuts me up. No, Peppity, what did you do? But we didn't miss our 3rd shot. So, Peppy got derped by an Electo, which is the bane of the T-28. The T-28's got such little armor that those little derps can really punish it. So the enemies have been interrupted. There's only 1 capping now. They're panicking. I try and clutch shot the Electo, but I put in my 2nd effort. So the M2 has got all the cap, and the PZNA makes the defending shot. I'm pretty sure I would have been able to get there in time, but it doesn't really matter. And we secure the game by taking out the M2. Now what you really saw there is just the sheer frontal strength of the Matilda. I was basically able to tank for Peppy, who was behind me, who was giving me some fire support. And we were able to turn like, I don't know, I think it was a 3 or 4v1 into a... No, sorry, it was like a 4v2. And we were able to dominate the game from there. So just going to fast forward until we can find the bison. And there he is. And we secure the 8th kill on the bison after he takes out the PZNA. Now, that isn't a Radley Walters medal because we're in a tier 4 tank and Radley Walters only starts at tier 5. But let's take a look at some post-game stats. So that was in fact our mastery badge on the Matilda. You can see how easy it is to get mastery badges on these low tier tanks. We didn't even get 1,000 experience without premium, and that was the mastery badge. We got a steel wall, which means we took over a potential damage of 1,000 and took 11 hits. And we absolutely beast moded the enemy. Clearly seeing here that we damaged 11 out of 15 of the enemy. We took exactly 11 hits with a potential damage of 1,355, securing a steel wall and a top gun with the 8 kills that we got. Ike valiantly held his flank until he died, and Peppy was doing some really good support, picking up 2 kills and doing a couple of hundred damage. So the Matilda here was really able to just dominate this game with its armor. In these kind of low tier games, you've got such good armor, it's ridiculous. It's pretty much like KV1 armor at tier 4, and your punchy gun is able to penetrate all of the enemy tanks with near ease, even without firing any premium shells. So that, guys, showed you what you can do when you're stomping enemies and when you get a nice matchup. Now let's take a look when you get not such a nice matchup with some more gameplay. So here we go, we're playing the Matilda again on Wide Park, which is no longer in circulation on the upper tiers, which I very much regret. I think that Wide Park was a fantastic map. Taking it out of circulation was predominantly due to the esports side of things, and I think in random games that it was fairly balanced, in my opinion. So it's nice to be playing Wide Park again in a tier 4 tank. We can see with the matchup that there's not many tier 4s on the enemy team. Nearly 2/3 of the enemy are tier 5s. And now I'm going to show you that the Matilda can really punch above its weight. Don't know what this T28 is thinking. I don't think he's played this map before. And he's dead. We were able to do 136 to him very quickly. Now let's work the Lee. And there goes the Lee. This Churchill's gone on a hero run. Taken out our Armada. I want to wait for the Churchill to focus on someone else. No offense to my team. So we see that it's ineffective to hit the Churchill in the side of his armor, so we're going to shoot him in the turret instead. Doing nearly 400 damage to the Churchill very quickly. So you can see here the speed of the Matilda is not fantastic, especially on grass. We're chuggling along at 20. Trying to get this Coventer. We can see the punchy nature of the gun, very accurate. We can see that the gun's rate of fire is actually faster than it can aim, so there is actually an argument possibly to use a gun lane drive on this tank. However, I feel that the added benefit of the binoculars is very good. So, now we've got a bunch of tier 5 tanks in the town. We can see Peppy's behind me, but it's really going to be up to me to see what we can do when we're trying to punch above our weight. We miss our first shot. Unfortunately, the second just clips the wall. Let's go after this Panzer IV. Here we can see that we're angling our armor at 45 degrees, able to just take shots. And there's the Panzer IV, caught and dead. Going after the Stug now. Fortunately, we missed the first shot. I'm going man mode. We bounce the shell and take the Stug out. There you go. Don't want to trade with a Matilda. This is one of the most heavily armoured tanks at tier 4 for a reason. So I'm not sure what this Coventer is up to. Let's go after him. Fortunately, we miss our first shot on the wall. Put our second shot on and bounce his. Take him out. Pull back to get a sniper shot, but we're denied the top gun kill there. However, there's still more enemies to kill. There's a B1 dead ahead. We clutch shot the first, put the second in, the third, and there's the top gun. Absolutely beast moding this game, and this is what the Matilda does best. Doesn't have to do much driving, just has to like to get into fights, showing there where the shots penetrated us. And that was the end of the replay. So what a fantastic result there in the Matilda. I think really I've showcased the brutality of this tank, and it's very capable of carrying even above its weight. This kind of effect that the Matilda had on tier 5 tanks is repeatable against tier 6s, but you have to be very careful, as the amount of health that they have means that you have to engage them for long periods of time to be able to take them out. Let's take a look at some post-game stats. So with the caveat in mind that this was a triple experience game, we got over a 5,000 experience for our triple. An absolute beast of a result. And as you can see, some tanks we were able to do even 8 damaging shots against the Panzer IV. 7 damaging shots against the Churchill 1. We were able to really punch above our weight with this gun. We can see that we fired 40 shots. Of those 40, we hit 36. And of those 36, 34 penetrated, giving us a total damage of over 1,600, which is a very healthy amount for a tier 4 game. You saw how quickly we were able to do this damage as well. It was not a long drawn out game, not by a long shot. Looking at the experience that we got over double what the next guy got, even in his KV-1, which in that kind of a matchup is a horrendously overpowered tank. Peppy was able to do a very respectable amount of damage as well in a T28. Really, this game showcased the brutality of the Matilda's gun, and the fact that it's got such high penetration really allows it to punch above its weight. And its armor is troll enough to literally just stand there and go, alright, let's do this. I fully recommend the Matilda. It's definitely a little pimp tank. It's quite easy to play, and it's quite a good tank in my opinion to learn how to play the game in. It's definitely one of the strongest tier 4s, especially now that all the derps have been nerfed. Previously, the derp rounds could really mess up the Matilda, and it still can, but just the chances of the penetration with the heat rounds going in is just now so much less. I purchased this tank and a new crew specifically because of how good the Matilda is. If you're looking for something which you can really stomp around in, then maybe the Matilda is for you. I would also recommend this to all new players for learning how to play the game. You've got really good armor and you've got enough time to aim your shots, and you don't have so much speed. However, that is really the downside of this tank, that it's very slow. You have to think very carefully about what position you're going to take this tank in, because it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to maneuver out of that position with any great speed. Being able to read the enemy team and read your team and figure out where you need to go to not be left behind, it's half the skill in being able to pick up large amounts of experience with the Matilda. So I hope you've enjoyed this review. If you have, please consider rating it down below. I'd really appreciate it. And tell me in the comments below what you think about the Matilda. Do you think it's the best tier 4 tank? Do you not? Do you think that this tank is overpowered for tier 4? I personally think that it is one of the most powerful. Whether it's overpowered, I'm not sure. I think the speed balances it out. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic. Check out some of my other videos, and hopefully I'll see you soon. But when you're talking about not being able... F*** off!